this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 4. Atre apatyam abhikankshata ahatushto. Kankshata ahatushto. Dato mayaham iti yad bhagavan sadata. Yat pada pankaja paraga pavitra deha. Yogadim apu ubayim yadu hayadya. Yadu hayadya. Atre of the sage Atri. Apatyam issue. Abhikankshata, having prayed for. Aha, said it. Tushta, being satisfied. Data, given over. Maya, by me. Aham, myself. Iti, thus. Yat, because Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Sa, he, Data, Datatreya, Yatpada, one whose feet, Pankaja, lotus, Paraga, dust, Pavitra, purified, Deha, body, Yoga, mystic, Ridim, opulence, Apu, got, Ubayim, for both the worlds, Yadu, the father of the Yadu dynasty, Hahaya Adya, and others like King Hahaya. Translation: the great sage Atri prayed for offspring, and the Lord, being satisfied with him, promised to incarnate as Atri's son Dattatreya, Datta, the son of Atri. And by the grace of the lotus feet of the Lord, many Yadus, Hahayas, etc. became so purified that they obtained both material and spiritual blessings. Purport: transcendental relations between the personality of Godhead and the living entities are eternally established in 5 different affectionate humours, which are known as Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. The sage Atri was related with the Lord in the affectionate Vatsalya humour, and therefore, as a result of his devotional perfection, he was inclined to have the personality of Godhead as his son. The Lord accepted his prayer, and he gave himself as the son of Atri. Such a relation of sonhood between the Lord and his pure devotees can be cited in many instances. And because the Lord is unlimited, he has unlimited number of father devotees. Actually, the Lord is the father of all living entities, but out of transcendental affection and love between the Lord and his devotees, the Lord takes more pleasure in becoming the son of a devotee than in becoming one's father. The father actually serves the son, whereas the son only demands all sorts of services from the father. Therefore, a pure devotee who is always inclined to serve the Lord wants him as the son and not as the father. The Lord also accepts such service from the devotee, and thus the devotee becomes more than the Lord. The impersonalists desire to become one with the Supreme, but the devotee becomes more than the Lord, surpassing the desire of the greatest monists. Parents and other relatives of the Lord achieve all mystic opulences automatically because of their intimate relationship with the Lord. Such opulences include all details of material enjoyment, salvation and mystic powers. Therefore, the devotee of the Lord does not seek them separately, wasting his valuable time in life. The valuable time of one's life must therefore be fully engaged in the transcendent loving service of the Lord. Then other desirable achievements are automatically gained. But even after obtaining such achievements, one should be on guard against the pitfall of offences at the feet of the devotees. The vivid example is Haihaya, who achieved all such perfection in devotional service, but because of his offence at the feet of a devotee, was killed by Lord Parashurama. The Lord became the son of the great sage Atri and became known as Dattatreya. Hare Krishna. Atre apatyam abhikankshata ahatushto dato mayaham iti yad bhagavan sadata yad para pankaja paraga pavitra deha yogadi apu ubayim yadu hayadya. The great sage Atri prayed for offspring. The Lord being satisfied with him promised to incarnate as Atri's son Dattatreya. And by the grace of the Lotus feet of the Lord, many Yadus, Haihayas, etc. became so purified they obtained both material and spiritual blessings. So scheduled incarnations. And so one thing Prabhupada emphasizes and mentioned many times, that one who wants to say their incarnation, they're an incarnation, one of the proofs is that where are they mentioned in the Shastras? Where is the mention of them? Scheduled incarnations in some Shastras, Srimad Bhagavatam, other Puranas, so many Shastras are there that give description of the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is one way we can understand who is the incarnation. Someone can say, I am Kalki, I have come, I am now the Kalki avatar. But according to the Shastra, the Kalki comes at the end of the Kali Yuga, and description is there where he comes and who his mother and father devotees are. The whole description is there. This is one way. And also, there are certain signs, certain symbols on the lotus hands of the incarnation, on the lotus feet of the Lord. When Prithu Maharaj appeared, the sages could understand when he had his hand, they saw some symbols on his hand. These were not just painted, just like someone said the other day about Pundraka. Pundraka, he claimed to be Vishnu, and he put when he met with the Lord, he put another two hands, stuck them on. But these are actual symbols in the hands, in the feet. So these are some of the one can see by the body. Those who actually learned and can understand their physiognomy and can see that they're by the effulgence and by the form of the Lord and by the symbols and by the different exhibitions, opulences and the other word is the excellences, that all these things combined together, we can understand, we can get some idea who is the incarnation. So here, the scheduled incarnation, today is the description. Yesterday was Lord Kapila, and today is Lord Dattatreya. Lord Dattatreya is not so well known incarnation, although in India there are I wouldn't say many temples of Lord Dattatreya, but there are some temples of Lord Dattatreya in Gujarat, especially in Raivataka hill. You can go, there's a famous ashram of Lord Dattatreya. You can go there, where he supposed to have performed tapasya for 12,000 years there. And so Lord Dattatreya. Now here, it's very interesting here, because here is described in the second canto that it was Atri who prayed for the Lord. In the first canto is mentioned that actually it was Anasuya, his wife, that prayed. So we can understand, the Acharyas described that the Lord Dattatreya, as with all incarnations, appears in different kalpas, in different days of Brahma, and sometimes a little bit different ways. It's not that exactly they have to appear exactly in the same exact way. They can, or it can be a little bit slightly different. And in this particular description, it says Atri prayed for the Lord. And in the 4th canto, there's also mentioned how this story is told a little bit, that how Atri, both he and his wife, they wanted to have the Lord as their son, or a son like the Lord. More correctly, a son like the Lord. And there in the 4th canto, Prabhupada describes that actually, although Atri Muni is one of the Saptarishis, and also one of the sons of Brahma, where he 7 great sages of the universe, he is not counted, at least initially, he wasn't counted as a completely unalloyed, pure devotee of the Lord, because when he did his prayer, he knew, he was very scholarly, so he knew there was a Supreme Lord of the universe who creates and maintains everything. And so he prayed for that Supreme Lord. He wanted a son like the Supreme Lord. And this is described in the 4th canto. So he prayed like that, but he didn't actually know who the Supreme Lord was. He knew there was a Supreme Lord, but he wasn't sure who particularly was the Supreme Lord. So it is said at that time, the 3 devas of the universe that stand over and above all the demigods, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, they are considered higher than either the devas like Indra and Agni and Vayu. They all appeared. So now Atri and Atri Muni and his wife Anasuya, they had gone to Richaka mountain and in the valley, beautiful place. There's one description of Atri Muni and Anasuya. Their ashram is near Chitrakoot. I think they moved around a little bit, but one description with the Lord Ram and Sita when he was in exile. You remember that he lived in Chitrakoot. And nearby there, they stopped off and they visited Atri Muni and his wife Anasuya. So Atri Muni has been living for a long time, long time. So they visited them near Chitrakoot, very beautiful place. Chitrakoot is described. So there's many stories of Atri Muni and his wife Anasuya. Anasuya was also a very elevated personality. She was the daughter, one of the daughters of Kadama Muni and his wife Devahuti. Now you remember Kadama Muni, Devahuti, they were their very famous son, as we talked about yesterday, was Lord Kapila Dev. Lord Kapila. So in other words, Anasuya's brother was Lord Kapila Dev. Her brother was Lord Kapila Dev. And so she, now the description in the first canto is that she prayed for the Lord and to the 3, Brahma, Shiva and Vishnu, to combine together to become her son. Now when Atri prayed, now they went to a valley, beautiful valley in the foothills of the big mountain, and he did tapasya. And she was right there. They made a little ashram there, and she was right there. And he did tapasya, and he was just living off air. He did pranayama and yogic. He was very proficient in yoga, and he did pranayama. Was only breathing, wasn't eating anything, standing on one leg, doing these very extreme tapasyas for a long time. And he prayed in that way. So he prayed that the Lord of the universe come and someone like that ought to be his son. And so the 3 appeared. In this particular instance, the 3 of them appeared. Brahma appeared, he was riding on his swan carrier, and Shiva appeared, he was riding on Nandi on his bull, and Lord Vishnu appeared, he was riding on Garuda. And not only that, but they were accompanied by Devas and Gandharvas, and they were a whole huge entourage, came there to the ashram of Atri and Anasuya. And so with great difficulty, on one leg he went over. Atri was very overwhelmed. He actually was a bit surprised that 3 came. And he thought that there was one personality of God, but he didn't know exactly who it was, but he knew that there were, but 3 came. So he asked them that, and he said, well, actually we all knew about, and each one of us can be considered the Lord of the universe. Brahma is the creator, each one, he is a Lord, and Shiva is the destroyer, he is a Lord, and Vishnu is the main, he is also, so we all came. And they all knew, that is a Prabhupada explains, because the Lord is the super soul, they all, of course Brahma and Shiva have so many powers, they know when anyone's doing anything. And so he by his tapasya, he gathered their attention. So they all came, and so they blessed him. And they said, because you have prayed in this way to have a son like us, like the Lord of the universe, we will bless you that you will have 3 sons. So he had, in that instance, that story of Anasuya and Atri, there were three appeared. Partial expansions of Lord Brahma, and he was Soma, the moon god. Soma, he appeared as the partial expansion. So he was one son. And then the other son, Lord Shiva, was Dabasa Muni. Dabasa Muni was the other one. And of course the Lord Dattatreya came as the representation of Lord Vishnu. And it is described that while Dabasa is a jiva, and also Soma is also a jiva, actually Dattatreya is in the Vishnu category. He is a plenary expansion of the plenary. In other words, he's the expansion of Vishnu, who is the expansion of the original personality of Godhead. So they had 3 sons, and there's a nice description in the Shastras about how the 3 sons lived there with the mother and father in their ashram growing up. In other words, Soma and Dabasa and Lord Dattatreya. And they're very beautiful. Sometimes you may have seen some paintings of Lord Dattatreya. Very beautiful. Now that was one instance that's described in the 4th canto. The 1st canto describes that how Anasuya prayed, and she prayed that they all combined together. And indeed they all combined together. They appeared before, and they all combined together to become directly her son. And so that form is more probably widely known, and you see a lot of paintings of Lord Dattatreya, like very beautiful. He's got 3 heads, 1 head of Brahma, 1 head of Shiva, and 1 head of Vishnu. He's dressed as a sannyasi, and usually in lilac or reddy kind of clothes like that, and he's very beautiful. He's carrying a kamandalu. He's carrying the daru, the drum of Lord Shiva, and he's carrying the symbols, the shank and the lotus of Vishnu. So he appears like that, and he's dressed as a sannyasi, as a renunciate. And I've seen very beautiful paintings of Lord Dattatreya. So very, very beautiful, and right from the very beginning. So growing up in the ashram of their father and mother, and he taught yoga philosophy, and also a little bit Sankhya philosophy. Very scholarly. He taught the Vedas. He had many disciples. There's one there's one very famous place where on the hill he taught his many disciples the Vedas. So he's a very great scholar, Lord Dattatreya, an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He went everywhere. Here it is mentioned that many became liberated by the teachings of Lord Dattatreya. They were blessed and benedicted. They were blessed by hearing the teachings of Sankhya, hearing the teachings of mysticism, of mystic yoga, and they were blessed with, here is mentioned the High, who actually is referred to the Yadu. King Yadu received instructions from Lord Dattatreya. Many received instructions. King Alak, there's one very famous, I've had for a while, this lecture, or a summarization of the talks between Lord Dattatreya and King Alak. And one section really always stands out to me, but I always remember this, that King Alak was a prince, and his father and mother became elderly and handed over the kingdom to him before he was even married, and so he became the king, and they went off to the forest, and his mother left him a little note in a ring. And this is a wonderful story. She left him a little note. Read this when you feel distress. This will help you in your path to liberation. And so his younger brother Subahu desired the kingdom of Alak, and he made an alliance with another king, and gradually with that alliance they attacked and they conquered the kingdom, and Alak was in distress. He read the kingdom, he read the note that his mother left him, and she said that when you're in happiness and as the king, take advice from your ministers and so on and so forth. When you're in distress, take advice from the sages in the forest. So when he read that, he did that, and he went, and that's when he met Lord Dattatreya, and there was discussion between the two, but one very famous a section that I always remember, I'll just read it to you. Alak says, now within my heart I've experienced great misery and distress. All these attachments are now gone, and so I've come here to seek your guidance. And here Lord Dattatreya says this: whatever you have said is correct. Attachment is the cause of both sorrow and happiness. It is because of the knowledge I give to you that the mist of attachment will disappear from your heart. Very wonderful instruction. A small sprout of ego ultimately develops into a huge tree of ignorance. Now this, why I always remember, because this is something that Maharaj, who was it to Maharaj Yudhisthira later on? Was it Narad Muni or someone else? But anyway, it was also given as instruction to Maharaj Yudhisthira later on. But actually here we find it given by Lord Dattatreya. He said this: a small sprout of ego ultimately develops into a huge tree of ignorance. Affection is the trunk of the tree. Home and family are the branches, and wife and children are the leaves of this tree. Wealth and cereals are the flowers, and happiness and sorrow are the fruits of this tree. Relation that emerges out of affection is the canopy of this tree. This tree grows day by day and obscures the path of liberation. This tree is full of desires, and those who sit under the lee of this tree can never attain salvation. I always remember that, because I actually read it in the Mahabharata instruction to Yudhisthira Maharaj, and then I researched it further. It originally came from Lord Dattatreya. Hence, felling of this tree is the foremost importance for a person desirous of attaining Brahmajitva, liberation. Very wonderful instruction there, and he goes on and he gives a lot of nice instruction, Lord Dattatreya. So he gave, as I said, to King Alak, and he's mentioned here, Alak is mentioned here, and King Yadu received instruction. He is the forefather of the Yadu dynasty. Later on, that Krishna appeared in that dynasty. So Lord Dattatreya gave instruction to him. And here also mentioned in regard to Haihaya, Haihaya refers to a king by the name of Kartivir Arjuna. He was actually named Arjuna, Kartivir Arjuna. He's referred to as Haihaya because he actually came from King Haihaya in the Haihaya dynasty. But this particular example is used here because Prabhupada mentions at the end of his purport that how Lord Haihaya attained mystic perfection with the siddhis, Anima and Lagima and Prapti and so on. All these mystic perfections that one can go anywhere, wherever he wants, smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest, and so on, travel at the speed of mind, and all these mystic perfections. So Kartivir Arjuna got these information from Lord Dattatreya, and he got the blessing of material opulence, and also he received 1,000 arms. 1,000 arms, and received the power that he could not be defeated by anyone. So Kartivir, this story is told in the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. You can read that story of King Kartivir Arjuna. He became and unfortunately became very proud because of his power. Became very proud. One time when Ravana was travelling around conquering the different kingdoms, he'd come to Kartivir Arjuna's kingdom, Mahismata, and was camping nearby, and Katibir Arjuna came there with many associates, and he bathed in them, and he thought that with his 1,000 arms and hands he blocked the flow of the river and forced it to go the other direction, which flooded out Ravana's camp. All of a sudden they were having a nice time, and it was all a big flood came over and they were flooded out. And so then Ravana became outraged and became very angry, and he went there to punish Katibir Arjuna. But Katibir Arjuna is mentioned that he very easily captured Ravana with all his arms and imprisoned him. And then after a while, just let him stay there for a while, just neglected him, didn't he? He just imprisoned him. Then he just released him as if he was nothing. So this is how powerful he was, how powerful Ravana was. So Katibir Arjuna had captured Ravana. Then the story goes on there. You can read the story how later on, when he was touring around, he visited the ashram of Jamadagni, who was the father of Lord Parasaram. And he has mentioned about Lord Parasaram that Katibir Arjuna, he committed an offence at the feet of his devotee, means Jamadagni, the father of Parasaram, in that when he came there, when Katibir Arjuna came there, he came with all his soldiers and the whole huge entourage, and he just Prabhupada, as it mentioned there, that Prabhupada mentions he really had no business going with so many to a little ashram, He came there with thousands and thousands of the soldiers to a little ashram, Jamadagni. Anyway, he came there, but somehow Jamadagni was very advanced and very powerful in mysticism also. He had one Kamadhenu cow, and with the cow, she produced so many things that somehow or other, by his mystic power, he provided for all these soldiers and all the ministers and everything like that, just with this one cow. So Katibir Arjuna became very envious of Jamadagni and stole that cow and took that cow away with her calf and to his own kingdom and stole it. And so even though the cow didn't want to go and the calf didn't, they were crying, and still he just forcibly took them. So when then Lord Parasaram came back to the ashram later in the day, he saw what had happened. He became enraged. And he flew after Katibir Arjuna. And Lord Parasaram, he is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It said he first of all moved with the speed of wind, then he started moving with the speed of mind. And Katibir Arjuna saw him coming at a distance. He's was blazing. And it's mentioned there's a description of the hair was blazing also. He had a big chopper in his hand. He had bows and arrows. So Katibir Arjuna sent all his soldiers. They were all defeated and killed by Lord Parasaram. Then he himself attacked with his 1,000 arms, firing bows and arrows, but with one bow and arrow, Lord Parasaram defeated all that. Then he started lopping off all his arms with his axe. Then Katibir Arjuna was killed by Lord Parasaram. And so he brought back the cow and the calf to the ashram. Jamadagni, his father, said, you went too far, he is the king, he is the emperor, and you have committed a sin. You have to pray to all the holy places. You have to concentrate on this, you have to do penance. Later on, the sons of Katibir Arjuna wanted to take revenge against Jamadagni and Parasaram, and when Parasaram was out another time, they came and they killed Jamadagni. So for that, Lord Parasaram killed them, and he was so enraged with the Kshatriyas. He's so enraged with the Kshatriya class, the kings and the military, that whenever they created a disturbance, he killed them again. He killed 21 generations of the Kshatriyas. Of course, when he came back to the ashram, and it said that his father's head was separated from his head by the sons of Katibir Arjuna. And so he did some yagya, joined his father's head back together with his body, and his father came back to life. And so there's many different stories in regard to Lord Dattatreya. Lord Dattatreya, Kadivira Arjuna got the blessings, but Prabhupada mentions here, because of the offence, one has to be careful. They get, you get something. Sometimes it is said it's easy to be humble when you've got nothing. Although even someone with nothing can sometimes be puffed up also. You've got nothing, but you're puffed up over something or other. But there are others who they haven't got anything, and in that way they're very humble. But then they start getting things, start accumulating, they start getting wealth, they start getting followers, or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden their head gets very, very big, and they get very puffed up. So such happened with Kadivira Arjuna. He just got puffed up. He got the blessings of Lord Dattatreya, received the knowledge, attained perfection in mysticism, but he became puffed up. And because when you become puffed up, you become arrogant, become conceited, condescending, you commit offence. You've got to commit offence. It's just follows one thing after the other. So then you commit offence. So sure enough, Kadivira Arjuna committed offence against a great devotee like Jamadagni. So we have to be careful. And one of the instructions of Lord Dattatreya to King Alak was the pitfalls. So be careful. I was asked this question the other day. I gave a conference class to the devotees from West Sydney. Someone asked me, how can you have to be careful for offences? They said, well, we have to take instruction from the Guru and the great senior devotees, and because they're very experienced, they know what the pitfalls are, they know what the obstacles are, and they can instruct us even before they happen. So as you become experienced, you can understand what might cause a situation that could cause an offence, and so you avoid that. You anticipate. As one becomes more experienced devotee, they anticipate where the difficulties could be, and they make suitable arrangements to counteract it. But the new devotee doesn't know, doesn't understand these things, and goes in and, due to maybe pride or whatever, commits offences, and then the reactions to that can be very devastating. So here we find that in regard to Atri Muni, even though the story is, at least initially, he wasn't considered an unalloyed pure devotee, still he wanted that, and he had a relationship of wanting to be the father, so he could look after his son, render so much service to his son, to the Lord, or someone like the Lord who is going to become his son. And so here Prabhupada explains about the different rasas and the humours, the Shanta ras, the Dasya ras, the Sakya ras, Vatsalya ras, Madhurya ras. One can have these relationships, and we see them in the world, fatherhood, motherhood, and friendships, and so on and so. We see they're perverted reflections of the ultimate spiritual reality, the transcendental position of these relationships, and there are other subcategories of all these relationships as well. So we have them in this world, but they're material. And so Prabhupada actually explains that Atri's, when he prayed, initially his desire was a little bit material. He wanted a son like the Supreme. He didn't want the Lord directly. He didn't ask like that. Although it is mentioned here he did, but later on Prabhupada gives a more elaborate description. So it is very important, the different rasas, to want to serve the Lord rather than be served by the Lord. Prabhupada used to talk about the order supplier. There are many who pray to God, give me this, give me that, give me the other thing. And when they don't get it, they get angry. We're like children in that. Just like children, they want all sorts of things. Sometimes I see how quickly the children change. They're all in ecstasy, like that, running around, all happy, and the next very second later, they're screaming at the top of their throwing a tantrum. The very next second it can just change, just like that. The very second. They're all happy, and then the next second, they didn't get something, or the mother didn't do it, or the father didn't something. They whip and change. So some, they pray to God, this, that, the other thing, give me this, give me that, and then when it doesn't come, for whatever reason, You're a bad God. Your God doesn't exist. I hate you. So how mature are we? How mature are we? We're just like children as far as spiritual development is concerned. But there are many like that. But there are those devotees who are more elevated. They want to serve. They don't want to be served. They want to serve. Of course, along with serving, they get so much ecstasy and so much satisfaction. So this is considered the highest level, pure. What is that verse now? Pure devotional service is the ultimate goal, higher than wanting jnana or wanting some karma, some good reactions. No, we don't care about that. So Prabhupada said devotees don't want to waste their time in all these other things, even though the blessings may be given. Devotees are not so much concerned with it. We just want to be engaged in devotional service. So I'll finish there. The great sage Atri prayed for offspring, and the Lord, being satisfied with him, promised to incarnate as Atri's son, Dattatreya, and by the grace of the lotus feet of the Lord, many yadus, haihayas, etc. became so purified that they obtained both material and spiritual blessings. We've got time maybe for one question, two questions. Anyone want to comment, question? You can just ask and I can repeat.
So, Maharaj, it says that the incarnations have to be backed up by strict evidence. Does that mean the Lord is not coming? If he wishes to come, he has to be dictated by the Shastras?
No, the Lord is not dictated, but nevertheless he can do as he pleases. But knowing very well that there will be so many imposters incarnations, therefore these things are arranged, that all these things are mentioned in the Shastras, and there are certain signs and certain attributes that are there manifest in an incarnation, and there are many different levels of incarnation. So it's not that the Lord is not under the the dictates of anything, but generally it is followed like that. Did I answer your question?
And he can appear also to his devotees, which he does. When he's scheduled incarnation.
Yeah. Possibly, yeah.
The trade that Trey was advising the king whose kingdom was usurped by his brother.
Sorry, whose kingdom?
That kingdom of that king whose brother captured the kingdom. So that Trey was instructing him and saying when the eagle sprouts in the tree, the trunk of the tree, the relationships and the canopies, the family and the canopies, the relationships. We see also spiritualists have those family members that have relationships. So could you talk about the difference between that ego that sprouts from that material attachment compared to, because it appears the same for spiritualists. They also have family, they have relationships and attachments.
In the spiritual?
Yeah, in the spiritual, like devotees also have family members.
Yeah, of course. Is that your question, or just more of a comment? Certain?
Difference between devotee's family and outside family. Devotee also have children and family. So this is sprouting out of ego or?
Oh, we're serving a... I see. Yeah, well, it can be. But as you advance, as you become more purified, then there'll be more and more selfless. In the beginning, it may be selfish, your family, and your husband, your wife, your children, over and above everybody else. But as one advances, one does it very selflessly and sees the children as children of Krishna, children of everyone. So it's a question of becoming more purified, and you serve them out of affection. They're also part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is the prime reason how you're serving them in that way. But when you're serving just my daughter, my son, and that's all I care about, because they're mine. I don't care about the others because it was mine. Alright, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi.